Welcome back to John Madden Sales. Today we're going to talk about some basic hoof care, some common problems that can happen with the feet, and some products that we use here at JMS. Consistent hoof picking is the foundation for good hoof health. Here at John Madden Sales, we pick the feet constantly throughout the day, starting with first thing in the morning before the horse ever leaves its stall. We pick their feet. This gives us a chance to check the legs for any heat or swelling, to check the feet for any heat, also to check and make sure the shoes are on properly and that there's no problems with the sole of the foot or the frog. It also helps keep our aisleway a little bit cleaner because we're not tracking straw and other debris down, so it makes less work for us throughout the day by doing it before we leave the stall. Okay, so I'm getting ready to take this horse out of his stall. I've got his halter on, his lead rope. I'm going to hang on to the lead rope while I do this, so if he decides to turn around or try to leave, I've got him. I'm going to position myself on the side of him, run my hand down the leg. This is where I'm going to feel for heat and swelling. Everything feels good. And I'm going to take my hoof pick and get out everything on the sides of the frog, all around the sole. Brush it out clean. Sometimes horses get a big cleft here. His isn't so big. This is where bacteria can get in, so you really want to make sure the sides of the frog are clean. And this also gives me a chance to feel for heat in the foot and also check the shoe. John always says at the end of the day that Beezy's the only one that can bring home the medal, but every single person on this team can lose it for us. Every person here has to do their job and do their job well, and our Farrier is no exception to that. Right now, Ray Cable Jr. and his son Chris do all of our horses' feet. Ray and John and Beezy have been working together for decades, and prior to Ray Cable Jr., Ray Cable Sr. was our Farrier. It's important to have a good relationship with your Farrier. One, so you can communicate freely with them with what you're feeling either as a rider or as a groom in relation to your horse's feet. Also, that you trust them enough to do their job where they can translate what you're saying to them and what they see into something that's going to help the horse. The farrier, the owner, the manager, everybody needs to be on the same page and also be able to work well with the vet if there are any problems that need to be resolved. So here are some products that are good to have in your cabinet. We have a variety of different things to help with hoof soreness, maybe to help treat abscesses, maybe to help treat a grab. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. They're all very basic, and we'll start here with the Venice turpentine. So Venice turpentine, really good for toughening up a sole if you have a horse that's got a little bit sore feet. We use this quite frequently with horses that just get their shoes pulled and head out into the field for turnout, and sometimes they get a little sole sore. This is really good to help toughen them up and get rid of that soreness. Same with the Farrier's Fix. This has turpentine in it as well as some other good stuff. It helps to toughen up the sole. You can actually put this on the entire foot, not just the bottom of the foot. It helps get rid of thrush, which is caused by bacteria getting into the frog. This is really, really good for those sore hooves as well. Epsom salt poultice, we put this on the soles of horses if they get a little sore as well. It's just kind of personal preference or what you're actually dealing with and when you would use it. Reducing, this is really good for, say your horse has a heel grab or you want to help stimulate some good hoof growth. We would put this on the coronary band or put it directly on a grab after it was cleaned. You want to be careful with this product that you don't overuse it, because if you overuse it, it can blister. So you just want to use it enough to help and not use it too much. And then we're kind of getting into some of the drawing agents for abscesses. Ichthymol, really good to have. Everybody should have ichthymol in their cabinet. Good drawing agent if you've got a horse that's maybe going to blow an abscess. You can even put this on if they get like a splinter or something on their body. You can use this as well. This is really good to have. Animal Intex poultice. This you can wet it and put it on the sole of the foot or over, say, a heel if you're suspecting that you might have a heel abscess brewing. Really good. Ichthymol is a little cheaper than Animal Intex, but both are good to have. We use a diaper on the bottom of the foot if we've got one that we're treating an abscess, just to help hold that poultice pad on. Vet wrap, elasticon, and duct tape. obviously the hoof pick, all very good to have in your repertoire of treatment products. So I know I mentioned when we were going over the products that abscess treatment, having some stuff available is always good to have. An abscess is caused by bacteria getting up in the foot. Either it's through a little area of the frog or through the sole. A lot of times we see it in field horses more than anything because maybe a little piece of gravel got up in between the sensitive part of the foot and the hoof wall, and it can create a little infection in there, and it is super painful for the horse. Fairly easy to treat. A lot of times you'll kind of notice an abscess because the horse will be fine one day and the next day they'll be very sore. So we do use hoof testers to try to figure out what area of the foot is the most sensitive, and that can kind of pinpoint where that little pocket of infection is. But things to use to treat that, usually a lot of times, I don't have any out here right now, but just Epsom salts in warm water, soaking the foot multiple times a day can help draw that infection out, and then wrapping the foot with either an ichthymol drawing salve, a wet animal intex poultice pad. Keeping that all in and together around the foot with a diaper is a really good way to do that. Wrapping some vet wrap around it and maybe some duct tape to make it a little stronger on the sole, or Elasticon. Duct tape is a little bit cheaper than Elasticon. It just depends on what level of protection you're going to want on the bottom of that foot. Abscesses can last anywhere from a couple days to a week or longer, depending on how deep the infection is. You can actually work with your farrier as well with that after a couple days of soaking the foot, and maybe the farrier can find the exact spot where that pocket of infection is and help dig it out, and that can be a really useful resource for that problem. Another thing that we do occasionally is tape the shoes before the horse gets turned out. If we're worried at all that they might run a little bit and pull a shoe off, you can take duct tape, as Gabby's doing right now, and just wrap it around the shoe. It's not always going to work perfect, but it can help for sure, and maybe even putting bell boots on before turning out can help prevent that loss of the shoe. Okay, so this horse's shoes are taped up. He's got bell boots on, he's got his boots on, and he's ready to go to turnout. When the horse comes back in from turnout, he's also going to get his feet picked before he comes back in the barn. It's going to keep our aisle cleaner, and it's also going to give us a chance to check and make sure his shoes are on, not sprung, that he has all four shoes. We take the boots off and check his legs and just make sure all is good before he goes back to his stall. Other things that factor into good hoof health, making sure that the horse has a nice, clean, dry stall. That will prevent things like thrush from happening in the frogs. Also not over bathing. Here we do more grooming than we do bathing. It's not good for the skin, that wet and dry, it gets dry skin. It also does the same thing to the hoof. So trying to limit your bathing as much as possible, limit all the stuff that you put on the feet, oils, all that kind of stuff. The hoof has its own natural moisture balance, and if you're concerned about it at all, you should really talk to your farrier about what to use and what not to use. A good diet is very important for hoof health, making sure that the horse has a calcium-phosphorus ratio of 2 to 1. The amino acids lysine and methionine are very important for good hoof health. The B vitamin biotin is very important, at least 20 milligrams of that a day. If your horse has a high iron diet, that can actually make them deficient in other minerals, so be aware of that. Zinc and copper are important for good hoof health, so you just may need to check your hay, maybe even test your hay to see if it's got good mineral levels and good calcium to phosphorus ratio. You can tweak your grain to make sure those levels are good, and consulting your farrier and your vet about that would be a good first step. So if you're having problems with your horse's feet, and between your vet and your farrier you can't seem to figure out what to do, sometimes the best course of action is to pull the shoes off and turn the horse out and let the hoof grow as the hoof would grow on its own without any interference. We've had a lot of luck with horses coming here with injuries that maybe couldn't be resolved any other way, and we've pulled the shoes off, we've put them in a herd and let the hoof grow out completely, which can take about a year. And horses have come back from those injuries that people thought maybe they wouldn't come back from. So when all else fails, maybe the best course of action is to pull the shoes and let them just be a horse. Thanks for joining us in our latest Madden Method video. If you like what you see and you want to see more, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.